What's going on, comunidad? And welcome to a new episode of Mi Gente. This is your boy, CafeconLuis. And today we have a dope-ass guest. Have you ever had that childhood friend and where like you just saw them always busy, doing their thing? You're like, damn, that person's gonna go places? Well, guess what? She's here today. I'm so excited to introduce you, Ashlie Major.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
It's been such a while.
No, thank you for thinking of me.
Oh my God. Like, I thought about like, who's doing their thing, and I'm always seeing on Instagram and stuff. I'm like, Ashlie, I have to bring Ashlie. Because I saw that you were doing a thing in fashion and now you're doing law. And I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a bit of a story.
So you are in for a treat, everybody. I'm so excited. So Ashlie, tell us your role right now.
Okay, so right now I am an associate counsel at A24. So if you're familiar with the company, we were behind Euphoria, Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, Rami, some heavy hitters, Moonlight.
Okay.
And Z-Way. That's
I love Z-Way. She's so funny.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're doing our thing, and there's more to come. But yeah, it's been exciting working with such a diverse group of people, and yeah, it's been wonderful, man.
So as you can see, she's made it. She's here, and she has a long way to go. She is here. So tell us, like, where did it all start? So we graduated high school.
Yes.
And then
I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my career. So like in Freeport, you know, I was always taking like the honors and like AP courses, which for some reason was always in like math and science. And so I thought I wanted to become an obstetrician, and like, I went to like science camp at Stony Brook, and I don't even know how the hell that even happened. And I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go to school like everyone else. And I applied to many places, but my dream school was always NYU. I really, really, really wanted to go to NYU. And I got in, but they didn't give me any money. And they're like, ooh, the price tag's going to be $55,000 a year. And my mom was like, you're going to Nassau.
Yes, for Nassau.
For folks who don't know, like Nassau Community College is basically the community college that like literally everyone goes to after high school if you don't go to a four-year university. So I was just so disappointed. I was like, like this is just going to be like a pit stop in my, to reach my dreams, all of that. But I quickly found out that I'm not really that good at science. And I almost flunked out of physics and organic chemistry, and I was like, "This is not gonna work."
Your AP science teacher would not be happy about that.
Honestly, like I barely made it through. Like I feel like you know how you have to have an 85 to make it to the next level. I was like begging and pleading, like I need this 85 to make it past, because like honestly, I don't even know how I got there in the first place. But that's besides the fact. So I was always the kind of person that always thought 10 steps ahead. And so,
that's a fact.
I realized like, hey, I'm really bad at this and I don't know what it is that drives me. And I'm just thinking, well, I always used to sketch. Like, I love fashion. Like, I love drawing. And, I think I want to go to FIT. Like, I think that is where I belong. That is what I want to do. So I basically changed my major at Nassau, and I ended up, FIT was the only school that I applied to. I was like, it's kind of like a
and I'll be all it's gonna happen. Yes.
Go hard or go home. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do, if I don't get in. But thankfully, I did get in, and I just loved learning about fashion. So I didn't do the fashion design program. I did the fashion merchandising management. So like FIT is like a 2+2 program where you first earn your associates and then you move on to get your bachelor's. So I got my associates in fashion merchandising management, and I got my bachelor's in textile development and marketing. So
you came out the gate already like, I got that. I got this experience and I got this side.
Exactly. And I was like, I'm just gonna do what I gotta do. I'm gonna make it in fashion. I'm gonna be, this, that, and the other. And I was working, so I assisted a few like celebrity stylists while I was trying to, get my education at FIT. And I remember Hating it. I hated it. Oh my goodness. Like I just
Not so glamorous.
it's not glamorous, long hours, and at
Yes.
the time like they weren't paying me. So, you know, and it was nice to say that like you worked with certain people. And I think it's a highly coveted internship to have, but it was just grueling hours. Like doing pickups and drop-offs and like, you know, I remember having to study for exams, but like the stylist I was working for was like, yeah, no, like you don't even need that to make. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this, you know, after this experience. So afterward, I don't. Can I say where?
You're free to disclose.
So after I graduated from FIT, I started working at Tory Burch on their fabrics team. So technically, I was in materials. It sits on the design team, but I noticed that I did like working in house rather than on like the styling end, but something was missing. And I felt like I wasn't able to work creatively. Like I wasn't able to feed that side of my brain. You know, like I always felt like there was something missing or like my talents weren't being used effectively. And maybe I should backtrack a little bit.
You take us on the journey. Take us on the journey. I was right there with you. Like, yes, I get it. I get it.
Well, I kind of want to connect the law aspect of it. And I think it started a little bit while I was at FIT. Okay. So like, you know, I always commuted. So I never really got into like student life until my very last semester. Okay. So that's when I ran for student government. I forgot what position it was, but I ran for student government, got the position, and twice a year there's an opportunity. So I don't know if you know this, but FIT is technically a SUNY school. Yeah. So twice a year there's like this convention where like all of the student leaders across all of the 64 New York State campuses, they convene, they talk about like resolutions and issues that are happening in their school and like ideas that they want to implement and such and such. So I remember going to this convention and they mentioned in passing that there was a position open on their overall like SUNY student board. And, you know, I didn't think anything of it, but one of my classmates nominated me and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And he nominated me and I ended up going against 11 or 12 other students, most of which already knew that this position was open and they have been campaigning and, you know, trying to, you know, market themselves and, you know, like they're handing out buttons and all of that bull crap. But I got up there and people were asking me questions about changes that I wanted to implement. And I'm not entirely sure how it happened, but I got voted into this student representative position for community colleges in like the SUNY downstate. So like I would represent like Nassau and Suffolk and Westchester County. So I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but it did happen. And I was in a space where everyone on the student board wanted to become either a lawyer or go into higher education. Okay. And I did like what I was doing, but, you know, I think at that time I was like, well, already settled on fashion, you know, like I need to see this through. This is, you know, what I said I wanted to do. And so that's how I ended up at Tory Burch. I still pursued fashion. So fast forward to now I'm at Tory Burch. And I remember thinking like, you know, like this isn't fulfilling me. Amazing company, by the way, like amazing company. But I was so depressed. I felt like I wasn't talking to anyone. I wasn't having much FaceTime. I was staring at a computer screen most of the time. I wasn't doing anything creative. I wasn't doing anything interesting at the time. But there was this moment where we were having a design meeting and one of the intellectual property attorneys came to the meeting, and I remember she was like, well, she was like looking at the design slate, and she was like, well, like you should make the polka dots bigger so it doesn't look like, Lily Pulitzer's design.
Right.
And I'm like, ooh, this is a boss ass bitch. She's like telling us what we can and can't do. And I was like, wow, like she really knows the business. Like she's calling the shots. I need to talk to her. So that's how all of that started.
How it sparked. Yeah, but it's wild because you really started immersing into a whole career in a sense, because fabric is a whole career. Like the amount of work that's happening right now for sustainability and everything, and just updating the materials, it's a big job. And then you add legal to that. You have trademarks, copyrights, there's certain things.
Exactly. The funny thing is I didn't realize that lawyers could work in that capacity, right? Like I'm always thinking about what you see on TV, and I knew that there were corporate lawyers, but I didn't realize that, lawyers actually worked in creative spaces and can collaborate and do all of those things. So of course I had to talk to her. And at the time, the chief legal officer, his office was being renovated. So his temporary office was on my floor. So sometimes I would see him walking in. I was like, say hi to him. And I was like, you know what? I should talk to him as well. And he was like telling me, what everyone on his team does, some of the legal issues, that have happened, like things that, the intellectual property lawyers would normally do. And I was kind of like, oh, like this is really interesting. Like I didn't know that lawyers could work in this capacity. Like, it seems like they have their hands in all aspects of the business, which I really like, because I think of myself as the jack of all trades, and like I wanted to have my hands in all areas of the business, and I didn't realize that this was a space that I can do that. So I made the conscious decision to start studying for the LSAT.
Easy task.
It's definitely not. Definitely not. I'm not sure how I did it, because you have to be in the right mind frame for it. So like there was a cafe probably like a block away from the office, and like I would wake up at like 5 every morning just to get up, and then the cafe opened at 6, I believe. So I was right there right when the cafe opened, and I would just like study and like work until I had to go in. At like 8:39. So like this was like a almost like everyday thing. And then I finally broke the news to my manager after. So like I kind of kept it under wraps until I got my first acceptance letter, just to know, making sure that this, would actually happen.
Right.
So I broke the news to my manager, and I received nothing but support. And then I finally broke the news to the chief legal officer, who I've had multiple conversations with by this time, and he was very supportive, and he offered to write one of my recommendation letters. And like that's how I left fashion, and I went to law school.
Let's dissect that, because that is wild. I mean, like being in the fashion space myself and understanding the workload and the hours, because it doesn't really matter the facet. Like anywhere in the industry, you're really kind of just going, and you see the years go by and you're still just going. How did you... There's a couple of things that I want to unpack. Okay. So, because this is so much. I haven't seen you in so long. So, one, when you're in these spaces, graduating, coming from Freeport, coming from Long Island, and going into FIT, and then now at a global fashion company, and now you're also seeing like how you're moving, how everything is moving around you. How did you feel like, and how was your experience as a woman of color? Right, because you're a woman of color with presence. Like you love the presence. You don't just stand in the back. So like, how was that experience for you?
It was an interesting world to navigate, right? Because we grew up in a very diverse community, and then going to FIT, it was a very diverse community. But then once I started working, I was often the only Black person on set, or even, once I started working in house, like I was the only Black person on my floor. But I think it was, it was an interesting world to navigate. I don't think that it was tough to navigate the work area, but I think, we had a lot of, so we had like a lot of like the fabric manufacturers like come in and like show us the collection and whatnot. And we decide, like what we wanted to pass along to the design team. And I think that is where I faced like a little bit of, racism or like, prejudicial tendencies where often like someone assumed that like I was the assistant and asked me for water or they would show, I remember like, we had someone come in and they were showing my colleague the collection, and like with every book they were just like showing it to her, and I'm like, hey, actually I'm the person making this decision. I'm
standing
the person
up for yourself.
exactly.
Yes.
Like I'm the person who is responsible for passing along the fabrics to the design team, so you should be showing this to me. So little things like that kind of took a damper on my spirit because it was the first time that I've actually had to like experience it and face it, and then it just got worse when I moved down south and go to law school. But yeah, that was the first time that I actually had to deal with it. Like it wasn't so much internally, it was, the third parties that I had to deal with, like the outward facing people that I had to deal with. But, like life moves on. I still got the job
look at
done,
you here. Look at you. Hello. And I think that's so important to acknowledge the growth aspect of it, right? Because I think that where you're at now, you look back at that, Ashlie, and you handled it however you handled it, and you're like, you know what? That was just a passing in my life. Because look, you're calling shots. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's a thing. So as we are almost wrapping up on the first session, we have to go to part 2.
Okay.
Which, as you guys can see, like part 1 is intense. Like we haven't caught up in a while.
I know.
Have a lot to talk about. So make sure you tune in for part 2. But before we leave part 1, through all these lessons in your journey and all these jobs and career shifts, what is something that you would tell younger Ashlie, you being here right now?
And I think, like I had this conversation, backstage a little bit. But I think the main thing that I would say to younger Ashlie is to kind of relax and calm down and experience life, right? Because I've always been so forward looking out to the future. What is my life going to look like 5 years from now? What is it going to look like 10 years from now? I need, this step A has to happen. Step B, step C has to happen. And oftentimes like the world has a way of humbling you and kind of like stopping you in your tracks and switching up your plans. And I just want to tell younger Ashlie that is okay. Like you be the boss that you are, still try to, reach your goals and be that ambitious person that you are, but allow life to happen, allow opportunities to come, just know that things might not go the way that you planned, because Lord knows I did not want to be a lawyer. Things will not go as you planned, but everything will turn out for the best, and just experience life. Live life as it comes, So yeah, that's it.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I love you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Everyone, that is our week's show. Ashlie Major, everybody, killing it.
Thanks.
So now tune into our podcast for the real tea. Let's get down and dirty. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.